Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I am joined by Rachel. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Perfect. So Rachel is joining us from Chicago. We were talking about how much I love Garrett's popcorn, anything popcorn related. It's embarrassing how many stories my parents have about me only eating popcorn as a child. So big fan of Chicago for at least one reason. So it's a good time. Before we kick off the subject, Rachel, do you mind introducing yourself to everyone, a little bit more about your background and some of your passions in marketing?
Sure, I do not mind at all. Hi, I'm Rachel Hennessy. I've been in marketing for about 13 years now in various capacities. I've worked in a ton of different industries, and I now work as a content marketing manager for a software as a service for the transportation industry. And everything is content, and content is everything. So I'm right where I need to be.
I love it. That's perfect. And I'm super fascinated by the industry as well. I've never had the opportunity to work in that. So I'm hoping we can kind of touch in that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Today, what we're going to talk about is how to tell better customer stories. I think that we often understand that we need to tell our customer story and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes we kind of stick with the bare minimums. And so I think there's probably ways for us to elevate our customer story game, regardless of how it's being utilized. So Rachel, what are some of your initial thoughts at how we can tell better customer stories?
Yeah, well, my first and the most apparent one, I think that everyone's going to hear, no matter if they're in marketing or not, it's build a relationship with your customer. And it's really hard to do that when you are in marketing. I feel like I'm so removed. I'm like the last piece of the puzzle. I'm the voice box, and I get everything out there, but I don't really see behind the scenes. So, in my journey to become a content marketing manager, I've been asked or requested to make case studies or publish testimonials or do like a customer satisfaction insert, mode of communication here. And that's easier said than done when you're basically at the last point between your business and the world from your customer, especially in B2B marketing. So that's step one, is building a relationship and starting as early as possible. And I think that requires a little bit of education in your organization, depending on how it's structured. I found that getting to know sales really closely and how they operate, that's like step one. Like, get in, how are they running things? When do they talk to prospects? What are they saying? What are the conversations like? And then in the same way, getting to know your customer support team. So when you have a customer, how are they sticking by their side? How are they supporting them? What problems are coming up? How do they talk through them? There's a lot of different voices that actually go into a testimonial. Your customer's experience with your business is going to be colored by so many different individuals, and you've got to absorb it all to get a really good story. So first step, try to figure out where you can get in on the ground level. Maybe that's asking sales if you can just kind of tag along like a fly on the wall for some prospecting calls or discovery calls. Any chance that you have to get in when you're first meeting the customer to see how they perceive you helps you to perceive them as well. It's like a two-way street.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's and not everyone has the time. So being like to say like, I promise I won't say a thing, I'm just here to observe, I think is really appreciated. As just somebody who genuinely wants to get something right, and that's always appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple ways I've seen the interaction with marketers and customers go really well. A couple ideas from people that I really respect. Shout out to Mike. Mike ran business development in our business, and he did such a good job of being close to people in our ICP, our customers.
Mm-hmm.
And what he would do is he would spend all this time and effort, and he would actually have this advisory board, and they would actually send out customers to our office space. He'd set up a full agenda where marketing and product, and everyone had time to ask him questions, and did this round table and got to know people really, really well, and exchange information. So if they needed to text him questions, all that kind of stuff. And that was always really, really helpful for understanding the customer, and really kind of a cool opportunity to roll out the red carpet. Like, they got the fancy
Mm-hmm.
conference room. They got a little extra swag whenever they came into the office. They took them out to a nice meal, things like that. They paid for that experience. And then another one is, you talked about, being really friendly with the sales team. One of the best marketers I've ever met, Jake, he would walk on the sales floor every single day, pretty much. And he would also walk in the customer success section or the support section. But exactly what you're talking about, he was very quickly, when he joins a business, for some reason, he is the ultimate ally for the marketing team, and like this ambassador to the whole company all of a sudden, where people are like, oh yeah, I know Jake. Let me go talk to Jake. Jake can hook me up. Jake can help me out. And if Jake needed anything, especially like, hey, can I talk to some of your customers? They would never hesitate to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I love these suggestions. There's a lot of creative ways to interact with a customer, but I do agree, like, you can't tell someone's story if you don't know them. Yeah, and I think that's a
Exactly.
really good point. And often we try to tell someone's story and we've never met them. We just got a quote and we're just trying to do it. And there's a little bit better way to do that, for sure.
Absolutely. Ambassador is a really good term for that. I try to get buddy buddy with as many people as I can. Transportation is a new industry for me. So I know that there are people throughout my organization that are much better at talking about this. So really I have to know people. I have to be an ambassador to these different places, to these different sections of our organization. And we're completely remote. So that's a whole other challenge of, like, if you can't walk the sales floor, how are you getting to know your coworkers? And
Yeah,
to be a good coworker, you should get to know them at some, even at the professional level of how what are their pain points? What do they deal with on a day-to-day basis with customers? It just makes it easier, and makes it more of a team effort.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten to know the customer a little bit better than before. So hopefully we're telling stories in a little bit better way. Where do we take it from there? What do we do next to tell the customer story better?
Yeah. I have on my little list of things of, are you listening? Like, that's the big thing of a post-it note of, are you listening to everything that's being said about the customer? So if you are privileged enough to have something like a conversation intelligence um, platform like Gong or Salesloft, are you popping in and kind of listening to some of those sales calls, even if you're not part of them? Are you listening to the customer? How do they talk? How do they approach problems? What are their frustrations? What are their hesitancies? And that goes the same again. I think it's going to be probably a mirror of your CS team as well. So listen, listen, listen. Take good notes. If you don't have the ability to listen in on those calls through those kinds of platforms, what are they saying on their website? What are they saying? How are they answering social media? How are they interacting with other people online? And by they, I mean probably other marketers. We're all putting out content, so
Yep.
read someone else's content. Get to know the customer at a level that at least they're putting out there, because the next step is actually sitting down with them and maybe talking with them. And I this might sound a little crass, but I think the next step might be a little bit of flattering, uh, inviting them to tell their story, and that can come in many different ways. Invite them
Yep.
to your podcast. It's very flattering to be on a podcast. It's very nice, and it's great to be seen. You feel appreciated. It's your time to shine. And if your company is 800 people and you get to be kind of showcasing your stuff and your perceptions. Um, it's just a really nice olive branch. And so you can kind of use that to get really good case studies, I found. Invite them in, ask them to kind of just talk with you, give them a good outline of what you're looking for. And that could be, I just want to sit down and talk to you for 30 minutes about this problem that you had that I saw your organization like crushed. Using our platform or using a variety of different solutions, of which ours was one, give them the opportunity to really boast about themselves a little bit. And that's a great way to just earn their trust and get in with them so that they can
Yeah.
be forthcoming about everything. And I have always found that it's like equal parts praise and appreciation for the solution that we've provided or um, the product that we've provided. It's also an opportunity for them to say, I wish it did this, or I wish there was more of this capability. All good stuff. It's still going to be used and gleaned from in some respect in your company. So you don't get that opportunity if you're just sending out a customer survey or a satisfaction survey, or even in a podcast or something. Sit with
Yeah.
them, be earnest, be human, and get them to tell their story the way that they want to. By inviting them into the process and by saying, I'm doing a case study and we can't wait to just like champion your brand. That's a great way to do it. On the other side of that, a big part of what I've advocated is clear and explicit consent from your customers. You don't
Yep.
want to take things and just run with them. And then maybe your point of contact sees it floating on your company page. And they're like, so I don't really want you saying that about our company because my name's attached to it. Get clear consent. Ask them for any number of controls that you can put onto, for example, case studies. Like, we'll anonymize data if you're uncomfortable with it. We'll wipe names. I've taken out our software integrates with a lot of different other platforms. The customer did not want us to even say the names of other platforms in the case study that we were publishing. You can craft the story so that it doesn't really matter that much, and really only you and the customer know that that was ever there in the first place. So
Yeah.
giving them some level of control also helps with that trust, and it's much more likely that they're going to cooperate with you in the future, or collaborate with you in the future, I should say.
I agree with that. And one thing you talked about with the customer story that I think is really important, and it got mentioned in a previous podcast that hasn't gone live yet as of this recording, but when you're telling your customer story, and this is 100% what you're saying here, it's not about telling your story. It's about actually telling your customer's story and that you play a role in that story. And I
Mm-hmm.
think often we're really too eager to tell our own stories and that the customer had this little role to play in it. And that's not really the most ideal circumstance. And that also sends a really bad image about your brand because it's all about you. But if you're telling your customer story, tell their story. And great, if you play a role in that story, that's awesome. And I think that little mental shift can help you tell a little bit better story as well and get the customer way more excited because it's something they can use because it's their story. And it just happens to be that you're a part of that story.
Absolutely. I found that it's very helpful to kind of take yourself out of it, act like a consultant. Like, I've got no loyalty to either one of you. I just want to tell what's here. It really helps you to bring out the humanity of the people telling you what has truly happened. Another big thing that a lot of, I think, businesses are focused on when it comes to case studies or testimonials or anything that's customer facing are these big flashy statistics and beautiful infographics, which are awesome when you can get them. But sometimes you just stepped in or you approached a company, they brought on your product or they started using your software and they just had a really good experience with it, but they don't have the numbers to back it up. that happens a lot. I've found
Yeah.
where they're like, well, we weren't really tracking what you're asking for. And you can ask for those numbers, and sometimes they're not impressive, or sometimes they wouldn't mean enough if you didn't give heavy context behind it. And no one really wants to read like an 18-page long deep dive.
Yep.
And if you
Exactly.
do, please let me know, because I would write those. But sometimes just telling the story of humans helping other humans is just engaging, and shows that your company is willing to listen to customers, which is a huge part of it. And I think what kind of drives business decisions now is, are these
Yeah.
good people? Do they respect our privacy? Do they respect our growth, our company? It says a lot.
Yeah. And the buyer's journey is an emotional one.
Mm-hmm.
So the data and statistics are really, really cool. But if there's not an emotional connection with that customer story, it doesn't really do much for the reader and their ability. But if they see, hey, there's no data about what, retention was through using this platform, but man, their head of CS really loves life way more because of this tool.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to feel that way. Like I'm all like, sign me up for that, And I think that obviously down the road there's justification, but I think the emotional connection is really important, like you're talking about.
Absolutely. As I've gotten to know the transportation industry, at least in the lane, pun intended, that I'm in, uh, I've noticed that there's a lot of paper still out there. There's a lot of manual processes. It's a big vessel. It turns very slowly, and so tech is sorely needed in this area. But telling the story of, here's a company that was doing it just like you are now, and now they're not doing it like you are now, and
Yep.
because of how small they are, or um, because they're just not tracking the same metrics as we are, and putting it all into context and giving it that like history of, they're just like you. Kind of, it takes a little bit of time to get that out and get it crafted, and like I said, make it a little entertaining and engaging, but it's worth it to tell it.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much. This is super, super helpful. I think that there's always an opportunity for us to do a better job of telling customer stories. I know this has given me some great insights and ideas and thoughts about how to do a better job. So thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing your thoughts with all of us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
You bet. So if anyone wants to connect with you online and further the conversation, how do they find you? What's the best way to reach out?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Rachel Hennessy. I'm in Chicago. I wish I had my LinkedIn handle here, but you'll see me. I have red hair. Uh, and I work at Driver Reach in Indianapolis, and they're a great company. And so if you're in the transportation space and you're looking for an easier way to manage your CDL drivers, retention, recruiting, and compliance, hit us up. We'd love to chat with you.
Love it. And we'll link out to all those resources in the show notes as well. So,
Awesome.
Rachel, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. And
Thank you so much, Ben.
have a good day.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.